one of the unusual things that we do in the Kindle device business is we sell our hardware near break even. And so we make money when people use the device, not when they buy the device. And that is very aligning with customers. If I buy a device and I put it in my desk drawer and never use it, then Amazon doesn't deserve to make any money. Likewise, it causes us to have the right kinds of behaviors. So for example, if we're not making money when people buy the device, then we don't need people to be on the upgrade treadmill. We have people who are still using 5-year-old Kindle Ones, and we're perfectly happy about that. AWS is very similar because it's a pay-as-you-go service. We are not incented to get people to overbuy hardware, to operate at low utilization rates. Our point of view on this is if we can arrange things in such a way that our interests are aligned with our customers, then in the long term, that will work out really well for customers, and it'll work out really well for Amazon.
If you want to go faster, make it easier for your customers to say yes. The amount of friction that people create for the customers to, you have to get so much money up front or so much done before they say yes, you're limiting your own growth because you're making it difficult for customers to say yes. Instead, bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. Bet that you can get them results and do the investment at the beginning, especially if it's time up front, so that you can start getting some clients. Like, you could likely explode your business if you just did a little bit more free work for the right people. Free work for the right people. People say we'll never do free work. I don't think it's not a smart or fast way to be able to grow your business. Free work will help you grow your business. It has to be for the right ideal clients, and not everybody is going to take you up on it. Not everybody's going to hire you. Maybe somebody, but Evan, what if somebody takes my stuff and runs with it? Cool. Awesome. Next, you're moving on to the next person. If you have a great product or service and you help 10 people, you will get some people. Not all of them for sure, but you will get some people. So the amount of people who message me and say, hey, Evan, I'd love to help you work on your thumbnails, or I'd love to come up with a video idea, or I'd love to X, like insert X that they want to work on. I'm swamped. You know, the best way to get somebody's attention is to give it to them. If you're a great thumbnail designer, the best thing you can do is go and work on 10 thumbnails and give it to them, and then offer to split test it for them. Like, make it easy. Think about the perspective of most of the people who you're talking to. So if you're trying to pitch me on thumbnail designs, right? I've got a business, we've had some success, we've got 37 people on the team, we're growing. Am I an ideal fit from a budget perspective? Maybe, right? I mean, I've got a growing business. It's not just a pure startup in my basement trying to figure things out, right? Am I a good fit from a values perspective? Maybe, if you've got similar values and you like the content. But here's what happens. If you say, hey, Evan, I'm a talented thumbnail designer. Here's my portfolio. Take a look. I'd love to work on something with you. What you've just done is created more work for me. You've created more work for me in that I need to read your email. I need to look through your portfolio. I need to see if there's a fit somewhere in my company. You've created more work for me. And that is not going to help you get the job that you want. Right? Do not create more work for your customers. Your job is to make their lives easier. Now, you might be saying, and you should be saying, but if we work together, I'll make your job easier, right? Like if Evan, if you hire me to do your thumbnails, your life will become easier because I'll make better thumbnails. Awesome. The problem is there's too much work up front to identify that. Because I've got a million things on my plate. I might be testing a lot of different thumbnail options as an example. And for me to screen you versus everybody else who might be pitching me the same thing, right? Your competitors are also messaging me. Your competitors are also messaging other people. For a potential client to screen people it's just too difficult. You're giving them work. Stop giving your customers work. After you get through the process and they've hired you, cool, now you're saving them time. But at the beginning, you're not saving them time, you're giving them more work. And this is a big thing that is slowing down the growth of your company. So let me share an example of how I've done it and how I've helped somebody else do it as well, that hopefully can help you in just bringing it home. So I look at Drew, who is a YouTube consultant who I've trained, who I helped him build and scale his business, this is a guy who was working at General Electric. During COVID, he got furloughed, was looking for the next opportunity. And he had a little YouTube consulting business. And I really liked him just as a human. It's like, I love this guy. I love this guy so much. I want to find a way to help him. But it wasn't starting a business from scratch. So what I told him was, you know what? Here's what's going to happen, Drew. When I do businesses with people, we eventually scale it so that they earn 75% and I have 25% of the business. And I forget what the break points are. So it's like 50 up to the first 100,000, and then I scale my percentage back to 25% ongoing. So I said, this is how I usually run my deals. You already have a business. It's small, but we can grow it. I will work and mentor and coach you for free until we double your business. I want nothing. This is my pitch to him. I'm trying to help him. He probably would have been okay with anything, to be honest, because he likes the idea of opportunity and growth. But I wanted to bet on myself and create something that I felt was fair. So if I'm coming into his business and I'm taking 50% or 25% or whatever it is right out of the gate, it didn't feel fair, even though he probably would have said yes. So I said, I will work and mentor and coach you and introduce you to people. And until we double your business, I get 0. Once we've doubled your business, then I move to the lowest rate, which is 25%. And he said yes. I said, cool, awesome, great, like gut reaction, sleep on it, talk to your wife, we'll come back tomorrow and talk about it again. He said yes again the next day, and then we went to work. And it took, I don't know how long it took, a month, 2 months, 3 months. Like, it didn't take a long time to double his business, but he didn't know that going in, right? He didn't know that. So instead of just saying, I can help you do this, go help them do it. Just start doing it. Now with Drew, part of the outreach strategy, and this is what Jeremy used and Drew used, and any service-based business can use. When he's doing outreach, he's coming with values. Like, hey, I've got 3 ideas to help you grow your channel. I'll give them to you for free. I've got 3 ideas. This was an email strategy Jeremy used to go from being a minimum wage grocery store clerk to now upper mid 6 figures per year. It's what Drew used to go from being furloughed at GE to now having a mid 6-figure business for him as well. Is you email people, and he would find people who had a significant channel. They were making some mistakes, and he would offer value. Say, hey, I've got 3 ideas to grow your channel. I've got 3 big ideas that if you do this, will explode your channel. Do you want to talk about it? And he would hop on a call, and he would tell them the ideas for free. These are ideas that have made millions of dollars for people for free. And some people take the ideas and run and never hire them. And some people take the ideas and never do anything with them. And then some people end up hiring them. And that's okay. And that's how you build a business. And the people who take the ideas and run with them, cool, let them do their thing. You're better than yourself, and you're better than them. And if they don't do anything with them, cool, they weren't ready. So it's not getting so caught up on, I gave free value to one person, they didn't hire me, their strategy doesn't work. No, you have to hit a bunch of people, because it could be timing. You just hit them at the wrong time, or it could be that they're just not the right fit for you. Value's different, cool. But you will get clients, and it's an incredibly fast way to be able to grow. There's too much friction for a lot of your business. Think about what has to happen right now for somebody to buy from you. What has to happen? And how much of your sales process is an actual sales process instead of a value process? People love buying, but they don't want to be sold to. So stop selling and reduce the amount of friction as much as possible out of the equation. Give stuff away for free. Show them what you can do. Bet on yourself. Are you good at what you do? Can you get results? Bet on yourself. The more you can reduce the friction, the more you can make it easier for customers to say yes. Guess what happens? Customers say yes. It's the fastest way to grow your business. Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
How do we get young people re-engaged with government service?
Well, I think one thing, and I look at this at Amazon too, so I don't think it's just government service. I think a lot of these government organizations are large organizations. And large organizations have a set of problems, and I worry about this at Amazon. I want us to have the scope and capabilities of a large organization, but the spirit and heart of a small startup company. And I think that, so large organizations, one of the things that happens is that the rate of the decision-making velocity goes down. And it gets hard for large organizations to make decisions quickly. It's trivial for a 50-person startup. They make decisions like this. But a 500,000 person company like Amazon or a giant government agency, there's a lot of levels of review and different things, and it can really slow. And by the way, young people don't want to work at a company with a slow decision-making process. It's just not as fun as working at a startup company or somewhere else. So I think you can do that, and even in a large organization, I think if the leadership, this is all about leadership, if the leadership focuses on increasing the decision-making velocity of the organization, everybody will be happier. It's more fun. Everybody will be happier at work. And you'll get younger people because that's what they want. You can also do, every single person who works in a large company, you get to decide, are you going to help increase the decision-making velocity? Are you going to bring energy to the room? We all know, we all have those people, we work with them. As soon as they walk in the room, the whole room, the energy level goes up. Somehow they bring energy to that conference room. And we also all work with people who are the opposite. Like the second they walk in the room, the whole room deflates. And you don't want to be that second guy. You want to be that first guy. And we all get to choose that. We all get to decide that. So anyway, I think you can do it in big organizations. And I think one of the things that makes big organizations less attractive to young people is just sometimes we're slow. And you can fight that and you can fix it.
If you looked at what you've brought and the legacy of innovation, how would you describe that?
Well, I think what I would hope Amazon's legacy would be is Earth's most customer-centric company. What we have always wanted to do is raise the standard for what it means to be customer-centric to such a degree that other organizations, whether they be other companies or whether they be hospitals or government agencies, whatever the organization is, they should look at Amazon as a role model and say, how can we be as customer-centric as Amazon?
Even competitors, I imagine, right?
Hopefully competitors as well. But if we could make, if that could be our legacy, that we kind of raised the general idea of what it means to be customer-centric, that would be a huge accomplishment. It would be accomplishing a mission that's much bigger than ourselves. If you look over long periods of time, look over hundreds of years, and look at the average sort of life cycle of a new technology, what you find is that it's getting compressed and compressed and compressed. So the rate of change is getting faster and faster. Every decade that goes by, there are sort of more important discoveries per unit time than there were in the previous decade. And a lot of these discoveries tend to have two uses. I mean, technologies tend to be agnostic with respect to whether they can be used for good or used for evil. And I think that over the next 50 years, we are going to face a lot of very tough decisions as a society in how we make sure that we are harnessing those technologies for good purposes. I think liberty, giving people the freedom to, as long as they're not hurting somebody else, do what they want, is super important. I think it's the core essence of the American dream. And I think at times we as a people get confused about it. I mean, I think one of the things that you see come up in various places, and people talk about it under different labels. Sometimes they talk about it as a lack of personal responsibility and other kinds of labels. But what it really is I think people should carefully reread the first part of the Declaration of Independence, because I think sometimes we as a society start to get confused and think that we have a right to happiness. But if you read the Declaration of Independence, it talks about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Nobody has a right to happiness. You should have a right to pursue it, and I think the core of that is liberty.
What do you see as the biggest challenges or risk in operating in the space domain?
Well, let's start with the fundamental principle. You never want a fair fight. That's for a boxing ring. Outside of a boxing ring, a fair fight is just bad strategy. And it means you didn't prepare properly. And as you pointed out, this nation has enjoyed incredible space dominance for so long. And it's changing because some of our potential adversaries are getting very sophisticated. And so for me, or if I were in your shoes, the way I would think about this is, in this new era, how are we going to maintain space dominance? What does it really mean? And you're going to need some fundamental capabilities. You have to be able to go to space more frequently with less lead time.
You mentioned that you wanted innovation to inspire this next generation. Why is it important to you? Why is it so important to you personally to make that happen?
Well, I think, I was a very lucky kid. I was inspired by invention and self-reliance from a number of different people, and from, even watching the Apollo program as a little boy. And I think when little kids get inspired, you never know what might happen. It's a big deal. And everything about our society gets better over time. I really do believe that. I'm an optimist. The myth of the good old days is usually just that, a myth. We have better medicine than we've ever had before. Everything, all of that is invention. It's people figuring out antibiotics. It's people figuring out new kinds of biomedicines, biotechnology. It's things that have been figured out with the kind of communication that we have, the freedom of speech we have now with the internet. There's so many things that are getting better, and a lot of that is powered by invention. If you are a lottery winner, as I am, then one of the things that you get a chance to do at some point in your life is to be a philanthropist. And so I didn't grow up hoping, boy, maybe I'll be a philanthropist one day. That wasn't ever on my list of, archaeologist, astronaut, those things I wanted to be. Physicist, I never. I think in large part because I never expected to have the means to be a philanthropist. But I think that if you win a lottery of this kind of size, that one of the things that over time you have an obligation to do is to think about the ways that wealth can be used in a highly leveraged way. I also think, by the way, it's really easy to give away money in highly unleveraged ways where it's just a waste of money. And I suspect that it takes as much sort of time, energy, focus, and hard work to effectively give away money as it does to get it in the first place. Amazon, one of the things we try to do is have multiple paths to yes. And so here's a little thought experiment for you. If you are a junior executive at Amazon And if Amazon did this in the typical kind of corporate hierarchy way, you had an idea. You need to get your boss to greenlight that idea. And then your boss's boss needs to greenlight that idea. And then your boss's boss's boss needs to greenlight that idea. There are probably 5 levels or more before that idea gets the go-ahead. Assume instead that you're an entrepreneur with a startup company idea and you need venture capital. You go to Sand Hill Road and you go to the first venture capitalist and they tell you no. And you go to the second one and they tell you no. Maybe your 20th one tells you yes. You got 19 no's and 1 yes, and you're still good to go. So that venture capital model there's multiple paths to yes. There were 20 people who could give you a yes, and it didn't matter how many gave you a no. So if you want innovative thinking, you have to think about how can we you want a large number of high judgment people empowered to greenlight things. You want multiple paths to yes. You want a system where, as a junior Air Force officer with a good idea, the first 5 people tell me no, and somehow I can still go pursue that idea. So you got to figure out, that's an organizational challenge that big organizations have to figure out a way to do. And by the way, I get, this happens all the time. I'll say, I don't think that's a good idea, but somebody else will greenlight it. And I'm fine with that, because usually the cost of the experiments is pretty small. Things only get expensive when they work, right? Once something works, you're like, whoa, we need to double down on that. Now, and then the spending can get heavy, and then those become big consequential decisions, and that's where the hierarchy and using the judgment of the most senior people, to me, this really helps. The most influential people in my life were my grandparents. And my mother had me when she was 17 years old. She raised me with my grandparents' help. And she was still in high school when she had me. That was not cool in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1964. But she did an incredible job. But I was lucky because I had not just her, but she married my father when I was about 4 years old. He has been a huge influence in my life. But my grandmother and grandfather were like second set of parents for me. And you learn different things from them because they're at a different stage of life and they know different things. They're calm about certain things. It was a huge gift to me. My grandfather had a ranch in Texas, and I spent all my summers there from like age 4 to 16, and he was the most self-reliant person. He did all of his own veterinary work, all the things, and to observe him solve problems and figure out how to do things with no tools and no resources and very small amounts of money, it was a huge education from an early age. So we were very lucky. One of the things that I know people who they don't have great family situations, and sometimes they break that cycle, and they are the ones who pull out of it. Those people are the ones I reserve my highest admiration for. Well, 2 pizza teams is something that we've been preaching at Amazon almost from the very beginning, and it's a simple idea, which is no team should be so large that it cannot be fed with just 2 pizzas. And so obviously to do great things you need big teams, but you need to subdivide them. And the reason that it's so helpful is because there's a we humans grew up around campfires and telling each other stories, and you're sitting at tables tonight that have about 10 people at each table. 10 people, maybe 12 people, is the perfect size to have a natural human coordination without a lot of structure. And if you want to have a big group of 100 people or 500 people organized, you have to have a lot of structure to make that work. And so if you can arrange to do big things with a multitude of small teams, and that takes a lot of effort to organize that way, but if you can figure that out, the communication on those small teams will be very natural and easy. As the owner of the Post, I know that at times the Post is going to write stories that are going to make very powerful people very unhappy. And
are you upset if they are writing critical stories about Amazon, which they do?
No, I'm not upset at all. When I first bought the Post in 2013, never. And I never. I would be humiliated to interfere. I would be so embarrassed. I would turn bright red, and it has nothing to do with, I don't even get so far, I just don't want to. For me, it would feel icky. It would feel gross. It would be one of those things when I'm 80 years old, I would be so unhappy with myself if I interfered. Why would I? Yeah. I want that paper to be independent. Failure and invention are inseparable twins. Everybody wants to be inventive. If you go talk to corporate America or any institution, actually, government agencies and so on, innovation is something to be proud of. People like invention. But the problem is they don't like failure. And you cannot have invention without failure. If you already know it's going to work, it's not an experiment. And only through experimentation can you get real invention. The most important inventions come from trial and error with lots of failure. And the failure is critical, and it's also embarrassing. And so that's why people, when we're kids, we always are doing trial and error, and we're never embarrassed. You watch a little toddler, and they will try for hours to put a square peg in a round hole, and it never works. But it doesn't keep them from trying. And they try things like that, and that's how they learn. And we all have that when we're little, and then as we get older, somehow it's not as cool as you get older to fail and to fall down. It looks clumsy. And so we get in our grooves, we have a set of expertise and skills, it's kind of a comfort zone, and you have to constantly push yourself to say, no, I don't care about failure. In fact, I say at Amazon, we have to grow the size of our failures as the size of our company grows. We have to make bigger and bigger failures, because otherwise none of our failures will be needle movers. And so I would see it as a very bad sign over the long run if Amazon wasn't making larger and larger failures. And if you do that all along the way, that is going to protect you from ever having to make that big, kind of Hail Mary bet that you sometimes see companies make right before they fail and go out of existence. My grandparents would take me every summer, starting at age 4, every summer, kind of to give her a break, really, for the whole summer. So I'd be with my grandparents and on their ranch in Cotulla, Texas, which is halfway between San Antonio and Laredo. We lived in Houston, and so we would make the 5-hour drive out to Cotulla. They'd drop me off, spend a couple of days there, then they'd go back to Houston. I'd spend the summer. And I went every day to the ranch with my grandfather to help. Now, a 4-year-old boy on a ranch in South Texas is not a lot of help. But I didn't know that. I thought I was helping, and then by the time I was 16, I actually was helping. So I have, I can suture up a prolapsed cow. I can fix windmills. My grandfather was so resourceful, and that he made his own veterinary needles. He would take a little piece of wire and pound it flat with a oxyacetylene torch, and then drill a little hole through it, and then we did all of our own veterinary work. Some of the cattle even survived, and so we had great fun out there. We built barns and welded things, and he bought a D6 Caterpillar bulldozer used. It was like 1955 model year. For $5,000. It was completely broken. The gears were stripped, and then we spent, a whole summer repairing that. And the first thing we had to do to repair it was build a crane to take the gears out of the transmission. And so, what I learned from watching him was just how resourceful he was. He didn't ever call a repairman. He figured it out. You don't choose your passions choose you. And I would always advise young people, actually anyone, to get in touch with what you're really passionate about. And it's a gift to have a passion. Some people are lucky they have more than one passion. They have 2 or 3, and that gives you energy. You can't force a passion on yourself. It just doesn't work. You can try, but it's unlikely to succeed. This work-life harmony thing is what I try to teach young employees, actually, and senior executives at Amazon too, but especially the people come in. We're asked about work-life balance all the time. And my view is that's a debilitating phrase, because it it implies there's a strict trade-off. And the reality is, if I'm happy at home, I come into the office with tremendous energy. And if I'm happy at work, I come home with tremendous energy. And so it actually is a circle. It's not a balance. And I think that is worth everybody paying attention to. You never want to be that guy. And we all have a coworker who is that person who, as soon as they come into the meeting, they drain all of the energy out of the room. You can just feel the energy level go. You don't want to be that guy. So you want to come into the office and give everybody a kick in their step.
Your stock at one point, I think, went to $100, but then it went down to $6 or something like that.
At the peak of the internet bubble, our stock peaked somewhere around $113.
Okay.
And then after the internet bubble, busted open, our stock went down to $6. It went from 113 to 6 in less than a year. So my annual shareholder that year starts with a one-word sentence, and that one-word sentence is the word ouch.
So most of those internet companies of the dot-com era are out of business.
Yeah.
You survived. What was it that made you to survive, and virtually the rest of them are gone?
That whole period is very interesting because the stock is not the company, and the company is not the stock. And so as I watched the stock fall from 113 to 6, I was also watching all of our internal business metrics: number of customers, profit per unit, everything you can imagine, defects, etc. Every single thing about the business was getting better and fast. And so as the stock price was going the wrong way, everything inside the company was going the right way. And we didn't need to go back to the capital markets. We didn't need more money. The only reason, a financial bust like the internet bubble bursting is, makes it really hard to raise money. But, we already had the money we needed. So we just needed to continue to progress. One of the reasons we have been able to extend into new business areas and first new product categories, going way back, we just sold books and then we started selling music and DVDs and electronics and toys and so on. And then we've extended into electronic reading with Kindle. The reason customers have been receptive in large part to our new initiatives is because we have worked hard to earn trust with them. Earning trust with customers is a valuable business asset. And if you mistreat their data, they will know. They will figure it out. Customers are very smart. You should never underestimate customers. The heart of entrepreneurship in some ways is about risk-taking, but I think that many people misperceive what good entrepreneurs do. Good entrepreneurs don't like risk. They seek to reduce risk. So they are, starting a company is already risky, and then you systematically eliminate risk step by step in those early days until you can get a company. You need a lot of, believe me, you need a lot of luck in all endeavors in life. And certainly Amazon has had, planetary alignment of the highest order. We're, lots of luck in our history. But you also need to systematically try to identify risks. And then as the company gets bigger and more robust, you can start taking risks again. But in those early days, a lot of it is about, okay, we have a good idea. How do we reduce risk? It's hard to have conviction about whether something will work. And the only thing that I can offer, every once in a while, you get a crisp moment of clarity where you just know some things are going to work. If you are persistent enough. And I think you can only do that if you start with the customer and work backwards. I don't think you can build that kind of clarity on what your competitors are doing or what kinds of technologies are available in the marketplace. That kind of clarity can only come from a deep understanding of customer needs. And the good thing about customer needs is they change slowly in time, so you can count on them. I know for a fact that 10 years from now, Amazon's customers will still want low prices. I know for a fact that Amazon's customers 10 years from now will still want fast delivery. They'll still want vast selection. And there's no chance that 10 years from now, somebody will come to me and say, Jeff, I love Amazon. I just wish you delivered a little more slowly. So because those customer needs are so foundational, sometimes around those things you can get real clarity. And then you can invest, and you can know that your investments will pay dividends for customers over time. I like time. I'm not efficient with my time because efficiency, there's an embedded assumption when you're being efficient. And the embedded assumption is that you know where you're going. And I like to wander because it's wandering that allows you to invent and to explore and to follow your curiosity. But wandering is very time consuming. And so if I could have one more thing, it would just be more time. Whenever you empower people with new tools, you get unexpected and beautiful results. And we're seeing that. I think we're still in the early innings of seeing the kinds of change that AWS can bring to a whole group of entrepreneurs, including entrepreneurs inside companies. Once you are looking at the odds in a realistic way, it's very important for entrepreneurs to be realistic. And so if you believe on that first day while you're writing the business plan that there's a 70% chance that the whole thing will fail, and then that kind of relieves the pressure of self-doubt. I mean, it's sort of like, I don't have any doubt about whether we're going to fail. That's the likely outcome. And it just is. And to pretend that it's not will lead you to do strange and unnatural things. So and what you do with those early investment dollars, so if you have $300,000 and then you have $1 million, what you do with those early precious capital resources is you go about systematically trying to eliminate risk. So you pick whatever you think the biggest problems are, and you try to eliminate them one at a time. And that's how small companies get a little bit bigger, and then a little bit bigger, and a little bit bigger, until finally, at a certain stage, you reach a transition where the company has more control over its future destiny. When a company is very tiny, it needs a tremendous amount of not only hard work, but as we talked about earlier, luck. As a company gets bigger, it starts to become a little more stable, where if at a certain point in time, the company has a much bigger influence over its future outcome, it needs a lot less luck, and instead it needs the hard work. And at that point, there's a little bit more pressure, because then if you fail, you have nobody to blame but yourself.
For another amazing Jeff Bezos video, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
The question was, why did we expand into things like electronics, tools, and kitchen, since those businesses are not today profitable?